right, well, I guess welcome back if you're watching this. Thank you for watching it. I really appreciate it. I mean, I'm talking to a camera right now. I can't see you, but I know eventually you're on the other side of this looking back at me. So I appreciate your being an audience today. So last video, we talked about rancid water. I hope that really resonated with you. I really hope that has helped you. But now we're going to kind of stay in that same kind of realm. We talked about water. Now we're going to talk about what else do we need to live? Food. Good job. Let's go back a little bit, very close to the beginning of the Bible in the book of Exodus. We see the Hebrew people have left Egypt and they've gone into the wilderness. They're heading to the promised land. 40 years they walked around this wilderness. I mean, they're in the desert. There's not much to eat. When you have that many people going around in circles, it's hard to feed that many people. It's hard to find deer for that many people, especially I'm sure the deer probably heard them coming if they were around. It's not very easy to be sneaky when you have countless, thousands, hundreds, immense numbers of people coming through an area. So those that I'm sure you're familiar with the story, God rained down every morning manna from heaven so that his people could eat. But he told them something very interesting. He says, I don't want you to gather more than what you need for today. I want you to take just what you can eat today. Now, there's theological principles that say, well, God was telling them that he wanted to be their provider every day. That's true. God wants that from us. He wants us to be operating in faith. He wants us to trust him. We're told that we need to have faith like a child. Well, what's that faith look like for a child to come to their parent? They don't know what's going on in the world. They just know that mom or dad love me. They're going to take care of me. They're going to provide for me. They don't worry about their everyday need. We see in the book of Matthew that, we're told that even the sparrows in the sky don't worry about what they're wearing or what they're going to eat, knowing that God's going to provide. So we know God wants to provide that. But I want to look at the manna itself. The physical manna that God rained down from heaven. Interestingly enough, that manna, after a day, molded. That manna, much like the rancid water that was meant to bring life and sustenance, that was meant to fill their bellies and give them strength, actually became moldy and diseased. We have on record people that would eat it and they'd get very sick. One day, it was meant to give them life. The next day, it was bringing death. Maybe not necessarily death, but it was bringing sickness. Now, let's look at our own life. Or what we're, like with the water, putting in. Is it bringing life or is it bringing death? Is it giving us strength or is it weakening us? Fresh manna gave strength. Day-old manna took strength, brought weakness. So are we trying to grow and live on day-old manna? Or are we relying on fresh manna? Because here's the truth of the matter. There are things in your life that are meant for today, not tomorrow. There are things that God is doing today that aren't going to be applicable for you to do tomorrow. There are relationships in your life today that are for today that aren't going to be there tomorrow. Just like I bet if you look at your life, like I can, and look back, there are relationships, friendships, opportunities, jobs that were in the past, that fulfilled a need in the past, that are no longer relevant or needed or even healthy or good today. Instead, those things, if I try to go back to those things, would bring death, would bring struggle, would bring weakness, Those things that were meant to stretch me and build me up and build resilience within me in the past to get me to where I am today, if I try to go back to that, I'm going to face struggle and weakness again, because those were meant to take me from a weakness to a strength. So trying to go back to those things isn't going to bring the result that I want. So are we trying to grow and live on things that were temporary from the past, that were meant for a season and survival? Are we trying to take those things that were temporary and make them permanent? Think about that for a second. Are we taking the temporary and trying to make it permanent? Are we taking a dollar store find and trying to use it? Pick your favorite store. Pick your idea of high quality. I can't think of anything right now. It has flown my mind. But imagine taking a knockoff product that's meant to only be used once or twice, as opposed to a high quality product. Tools are a great example of this. Go take a dollar store wrench and try and use that on your car, as opposed to a Snap-on or Matco or Mac or Craftsman tool. The same wrench, that dollar store wrench, because it's made with really weak alloy steel, is gonna break. That other wrench is meant to last longer. Are the things in your life, are you trying to make the temporary permanent? This is a discussion I've had to have with myself multiple times. Because we get wrapped up in, oh, that was so great, that was such an amazing experience. And we want to live in an experience that was temporary. We want to live in that moment, keeping us trapped in that moment, preventing us from moving forward. What happens when we don't move forward? We stagnate. Much like, if you haven't seen the previous video, rancid water. We stagnate. We no longer bring life to ourselves and others. We bring death. We bring illness. All because we're trying to live on something that was meant to be temporary. See, manna molds. It doesn't last long, and very quickly it changes. Relationships, acquaintances, even jobs, sometimes are here today, gone tomorrow. They go from providing life to dividing your life. And I'm talking about this, you're probably thinking about people in your life that at one point brought life. They brought some sort of clarity for you. They filled some sort of need. But now every time you talk to them, you end up frustrated. Or a job that, man, you loved at first and it allowed you to get out and live on your own. But now every time you go to that job, you have anxiety. Well, maybe it's time that manna that seems to be temporary is replaced by new manna. Sometimes our past is just for a time, and we need to let go if we're gonna move forward. I wish I could say that I don't see this really often with people coming in. Constantly. This is one of the biggest issues that we have to face is that when people come, when people are struggling, a lot of times it's because of moldy manna. Something that was meant to be temporary is being held on to. And rather than letting go and having faith and trusting that God is going to provide, that God's going to give new manna, allowing that fear that I need to gather all this from the past because I don't know if it's going to be there in the future. Sometimes, many times leads to us being entrapped. Leads to our mental health taking a decrease, our anxiety rising, our fear rising. So let me challenge you. Take a look at your life. Take a look at those areas that once brought life, but now seem to be bringing division, bringing illness. And evaluate those things. Is what you're doing bringing life or not? Evaluate where you're at. Because my guess is in areas where you're struggling, in areas where I'm struggling, we can look back and see it's as a result of the manna, the temporary that we've tried to live in, live on, and make permanent. So once again, if you've enjoyed this, if you like this, if you want to know more, reach out to us. This raises questions, let us know. We want to answer your questions. We want to be here and support you. We want to help your mental health be the strongest it can be. We want to see your holistic person grow. We want to see you be the best that God created you to be. So thank you for listening to this video, and I look forward to connecting with you on our next one.